My brother ended his life today. It was my mother who found him, her screams echoing through the house. When I ran upstairs, she was cradling him, soaked in his blood, begging him to breathe. The scene was surreal. His blood splattered on the walls, almost like an abstract painting. But the truth was far from beautiful. The paramedics and cops arrived, but they couldn't pry my mother from him without force. I was numb. I loved him, but at that moment, I felt nothing. Shock. Maybe guilt? I avoided his room that night, sleeping downstairs instead. But as I tried to drift off, I heard footsteps pacing above me, his room. I convinced myself it was a nightmare, the aftermath of a traumatic day. But the next morning, his ex-girlfriend knocked on the door, sobbing. I let her in, and when we both broke down, she said what I had been thinking all along: we killed him. I tried to deny it, told her he was the one who gave up, not us. But the truth was, I had betrayed him. A few days before he died, she and we crossed a line. He caught us together, naked in my bed, and the look in his eyes that morning still haunts me. The days blurred into each other. Guilt, anger, and fear swirled inside me. When I was alone in the house, the footsteps came back, always from his room. One night, just as I began to fall asleep, I heard a whisper. "Do you really think I'm a coward?" At his funeral, I felt like I was suffocating. I couldn't even cry. As I sat there, I saw him, my brother, standing beside his own coffin, grinning at me. No one else seemed to see him, just me. Weeks passed, and his presence only grew stronger. I started seeing him everywhere, pale, rotting, his smile stretching unnaturally wide. I finally admitted I needed help. The hospital gave me pills, but nothing worked. He was always there, decomposing in front of my eyes, whispering accusations, reminding me of my betrayal. Desperate, I went to a priest. I begged for an exorcism, but all he could offer were prayers. As we prayed, my brother screamed, burning in front of me, his body charring away until he was nothing but ash. I thought it was over, but when I returned home, he was there, sitting in his room, smiling that same cold smile. "You can't get rid of me," he said. "You know how this ends." I knew what I had to do. I called her, asked her to come over. As she sat on the couch, I walked behind her and pulled the trigger. My brother stood over her lifeless body, smiling. "Almost there, brother." Without hesitation, I put the gun in my mouth. There was no fear, just cold emptiness. I squeezed the trigger.